Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Mountains We Climb. This is a series where we dive into people's journeys of overcoming challenges and adversity in their lives so that we can understand what is really possible and what it really takes. I'm your host, Jordan Kilpatrick Smith, and in this week's episode, we're going to be exploring Jay Dukeshires' journey of flatlining 3 times after a motorcycle accident, the near-death, out-of-body experiences that followed, and his journey of rebuilding his mind and his body. Among many things, Jay is now part of the Help Heal Humanity team, doing great things to help empower and inspire vulnerable youth and communities both locally here in Hamilton, in Toronto, and globally. He leads the Food for Humanity chapter to ensure that our local community living in shelters and encampments are fed a warm cooked meal and given various supplies such as boots, coats, pants, sweaters, gloves, tent, and sleeping bags. Incredible man to have on the podcast. Jay, thank you so much for being here with me.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm super excited.
Yeah, when I first heard your story, I was like, I need to talk to this guy.
It's remarkable to say the least.
So where does it start? Where do we start this?
So I'll start this, I guess, basically how this whole Ducati career started. I got a phone call to work for Ducati, so I went and I tried it out. And my first day, I did a fantastic job. I built a bunch of bikes, so I landed the job. Everything went well. And moving forward, I built a bike for a customer, and I was on a road test. And we road test every bike that we build to make sure the customer doesn't have a troubled bike or whatever it may be. And I was cut off by a car, and the person cut me off, and the person left. And how I know this is it happened in front of the dealership, and they have surveillance cameras that watch all the cars in the lot. I'm not going to name names, but my crash accident, was caught on tape. So
Right.
It did show that I wasn't riding recklessly, super fast. Literally, when the police assessed the scene, they assessed that I was doing 39 kilometers an hour. And when I watched the tape, it took me 2.5 years to watch the tape because the first time I cried, like it was unbelievable. Reason being, when you watch YouTube and it's somebody else in a snuff film or something, it's not a big deal. But when I'm watching this and I actually realized that it was me, the person bouncing off the ground, off my face and my feet, I had an extremely difficult time with that. And I watched it with a buddy of mine. It took some time, but I needed closure as to what happened. It was tough. It was very difficult. I'm just reminiscing and I'm going back to that time and I watched the video and it's erupting feelings inside me right now. And there's just some things that you never forget. And watching the video, it created closure for me and I was able to move forward from start recovery and moving through different channels through our health organization to get better.
Right. So you were test driving this bike that you had built, not really going very fast. Someone cuts you off. And then how did the accident happen there?
Okay, so in the motorcycle world, I've raced motorcycles my whole life, all over the world. So when you ride a motorcycle, there's something that happens. It's called high side. And when you high side a motorcycle, the back tire starts to slide back and forth, side to side, side to side. But because the back tire being rubber, the tire eventually stops sliding from side to side because it's on pavement. And what happens is the bike sits upright and the bike pitches you off the front of the bike or catapults you like a slingshot over the handlebars because of the force, the G-force of the bike standing straight up, it throws you off the front of the bike.
Straight up as in on the front wheel?
Yeah, right over the handlebars, right. Onto the ground. And the problem when you high side is you always have to keep in the back of your mind, 1, you're trying not to die, and 2, the motorcycle is right behind you. So if you stop abruptly, the motorcycle is going to nail you. It's going to hit you. And what happened with me is I high-sided and looking at the video, it was roughly 90 to 100 feet. I was bouncing and sliding off my face and my feet, doing a cartwheel, so to speak, down the road. And the motorcycle was right behind me. And I hit the curb with my right shoulder. And this is what caused the brain injury. But as I hit the curb, my head slammed off the ground and it broke everything on the right upper side of my body. And as I hit the curb, somebody was watching over me because the bike missed me by an inch. It hit the curb right beside me, an inch away from me.
Wow.
And when I hit the curb, I catapulted up and I missed a telephone post again by about 2 inches. So I got extremely lucky. And this is what happened. I had my first outer body experience at that particular time. I was standing, this is going to sound very strange, but this is the honest to God truth. I stood up beside the bike and I'm standing at the bike looking down. I see the bike and myself on the ground and I see all my colleagues from work running over to the scene. There's people driving cars that were stopping, doors are opening up, people were running up to me, and then I don't remember nothing after that. Sorry, I do actually. The next thing that happened to me, so my Aunt Viv was my guardian angel through this, absolutely. And what caught me off guard is my Aunt Viv passed 3 years before my accident from cancer. So not good, but one of my favorite people in the whole world. And as I'm being put into the stretcher, I'm completely tied down because I was bleeding out my nose and my mouth, but worst of all, I was bleeding out my ears. So that means my brain's leaking inside or bleeding inside my head. So they had me taped down. I couldn't move like this. And they put me in the back of the ambulance. And the first thing I could smell was my Aunt Viv's perfume. And I went, oh boy, this is not good. And when I looked over to my left, she was on my left. I remember I moved my head just a touch, and she repeated this so many times, but her hair was always done perfectly. Her makeup was done perfectly. She always had her perfume on. She was dressed to the nines every time. She had her favorite clothes on. And I looked over, and she looks at me. She goes, "It's okay, hon." She goes, "Everything's going to be okay." She goes, "You and I are going to hang out for a little while." And I went, "Okay." And it was like the weight of the world. It was like euphoria. It was lifted off my shoulders, and I felt at peace and extremely calm. It's extremely difficult to explain. That's the best way I can explain it. Being in the back of the ambulance with my Aunt Viv, from that point on, it's almost as real as you and I talking now. We hung out for 2 weeks, and one of the best visions that I remember was my aunt and I sitting on a dock looking into the water, and remember seeing our reflections in the water. And from that point on, I had been in the hospital probably for about 2.5 months, the general hospital, and I had my last outer body experience at the hospital. We hear this all the time. We see videos, we read about this, and we hear other people going through these traumatic experiences. And for myself, I was floating above my bed in the hospital, and I'm looking down at my bed, and I'm lying on the bed, and everything, I have wires hooked up to me, I have tubes hooked up to me, I have all the equipment from the hospital to help me survive hooked up to me. I'm looking down at myself, and my mom and my dad were at the head of the bed. And man, they were a mess. They were a mess, right? And what happened next, how I describe it, is it was like a hallway in an apartment building, because I'm walking, and you know how you can kind of hear your footsteps down the hallway?
Yep.
And I'm looking down this long, black, dark hallway, and I remember it was really cold, and I saw a light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm walking aimlessly in this black space towards the light. This is the best way I can describe it, how I remember it. And I'm walking towards the light, and my Aunt Viv comes again, and she grabs my right arm, and imagine that, because the right side of my upper body was the worst pain of all, and she grabbed my right arm. She goes, "No, hon," she goes, "you're going the wrong way." And I turned around, and that's when I first woke up in my room in the general hospital. And I was somewhat coherent. My brain was very traumatized at that point, but that was my first time ever waking up and just kind of going, okay, what happened? And I remember my mother walked into the room at that particular point, go figure. And my mom, man, my mom was a mess. She had a tough go with this. I look at my mom, and I said to my mom, I said, typical guy. I said, "How's my bike?" Because she told me I was a motorcycle. I said, "Oh my gosh, how's my bike? Is it smashed up? Is it still rideable?" And then she, "No, hon." She goes, you had an accident at work." I went, "Oh, okay." So it was the caddy. And then this is when recovery started to move forward. And that's when the work started.
Yeah.
That's when the work started. Yes.
Okay. So the out of body experience is something I think most people never experience in their lives, right? So I'm really, really curious about this. So you get sent over the handlebars on this bike. You're just flying down the road. You hit the curb, and in your first of the out of body experiences, were there a lot of emotions during this, or was it just kind of like a calm observation of the scene, or what was that like?
Yeah. It was a calm observation of the scene, believe it or not. Most would be traumatized because it's a very traumatic situation experience, and I was calm. I maybe I shouldn't have been calm, but I was calm. And I mean, I was overwhelmed by the amount of people that were running up to myself and the bike lying on the ground. And I mean, I was grateful because people were trying to help me, right? And again, I'm watching. It's real as you and I talking now. I'm standing there beside the bike and myself lying on the ground, and I'm watching all these people, and they're just hysterical, all these people. And I'm the only person who's calm, and I was the person in the accident, right?
Yeah.
So, Yeah, I was pretty good as far as moods go.
Right. And did it still feel like you? Like, because you could see your body, right?
Mhm.
So was that like a thought, like, hey, I'm looking at myself there, or yeah, well, like,
So at first, it wasn't me. I couldn't comprehend what was going on. I
right.
was like, how can I say? I was pulled out of my body. Obviously, that's never happened to me before.
Yeah.
And I was pulled out and then put beside me, another me on the ground. And at first, I was really overwhelmed. I was really nervous. I didn't understand what was going on. Clearly, this has never happened to me before. And then I just felt this calm come over top of me. I don't know why. And I'm just standing around. I'm looking around. Everybody rushing up to the scene, and I was calm. I guess maybe I should have been more hysterical, possibly, but that was good.
Yeah. And so one of the reasons I ask is I've heard this about near death experiences where it's an incredibly calm experience for people.
Unbelievable. It really is. It really
Right.
is. And again, I mean, so that 2.5 weeks when I was in a coma. So I'll go back to the hospital. How it
Hmm.
started. Um, I left that part of. This is kind of a not a funny part, but a funny part if you know my father. So my dad gets a call at work, and they said, "Okay, your son Jay's been in a motorcycle accident." And so then my dad then calls my sister. Then my sister then calls my mom. My sister lives in Alliston, an hour and a half away from Hamilton. She drove down every single day with her kids, her 3 kids, newborns, and her husband to be with me every single day.
Wow.
So when everybody was on the horn and everybody knew what was going on, Dad's driving down to the hospital. He works in Cambridge. And he's thinking that I fell off the bike and I broke my ankle or something. He's going, Jay, man, I told this guy to slow down. And finally, it kind of cut up to him and he fell down, so to speak. And as they say in a motorcycle, it's not if you fall down, it's when you fall down, right?
Right.
And my dad gets to the hospital. My mom was there already. And my parents are walking down the hallway. And as they're walking down the hallway towards the reception desk, a doctor walked up to my parents and said, "Are you Mr. or Mrs. Dukeshire?" And they said, "Yes, we are." Jay's mother and father. "Yes, we are." "Okay, could you just come and step into this room with me?" And right then and there, this is what my father told me. He goes, "Jake," he goes, "right then and there," he goes, "I knew you were in trouble." And and what they told my parents in the hospital, they said, "Jay is critical. He's not doing well right now. If Jay makes it through tonight, we'll deal with Jay tomorrow. If Jay makes it through tomorrow, we'll deal with the next day," and so on and so on. And I made it. I got through again, I can remember nothing, but I made it through the first night. And my family had this 8x8 little room in ICU in the general hospital with no windows. It was like this little jail cell. My sister was explaining to me. So they had my parents in there and my sister and her husband and 3 kids. And my niece was 9 months old, just to give you an idea, right?
Right.
So they're all sitting in this room and Code Blue's called. And my mom went sideways and the code blue was on me. So in the hospital, I had flatlined 3 times. And sorry, I flatlined once in the ambulance. I flatlined twice in the hospital. And they called code blue. And if anyone's ever seen a code blue in a hospital, staff on deck start running towards the room wherever the code blue is. I volunteered in hospitals and did placements in hospitals my whole life. So I understand this. And my mom said, she goes, "Jay," she goes, "the swarm of people just started running down the hallway towards your room." And I started to panic. She goes, "Because you're my son and I love you." She goes, "Your dad and your sister started to really panic." And everybody's going on. But the hospital's like, "No, you can't come here. You stay there. We got to go take care of him." And I don't know if that was the second or the first time I flatlined at the hospital, but it was one of the two. Anyway, it
Hmm.
was one of the two. I was really critical. I wasn't supposed to make it that night, to be honest with you. I wasn't supposed to live. Um, on a brain injury, traumatic brain injury, on a scale of 1 to 10, my brain injury was 9.5 or 9.9. My brain was never supposed to work right again.
Right.
Then after I was assessed, they told my parents he'd broken four vertebrae in his lower back, 3 in his neck. He may never walk again. And I broke all the ribs on the right side of my body and I put 2 of them through my lung. They said he may never breathe properly again. So that was the diagnosis. And then we jump into the hospital and then the process starts.
Right. Okay. So you got a little banged up.
I got banged up. But totally. What happened? I broke 17 bones from head to toe. My left leg is titanium from the knee down. I have a titanium rod for tibia and fibula, and I have a plate and screws for an ankle. And yes, I got banged up really, really bad.
Yeah.
Really bad.
And so in the ambulance, they said they strapped you down,
Yes.
right? So that you couldn't move around. So you were like semi-conscious at this point in the ambulance?
I was out cold. And the outer body experience at the accident scene,
Yeah.
I was out cold. My eyes were closed. I wasn't moving. Nothing was happening. Ambulance, same thing.
Right. So when you say you like kind of looked over and saw your Aunt Viv there, you weren't conscious for that? That was like an imagined experience?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was knocked out, I guess, unconscious. And the first thing is I could smell my aunt's cologne.
Right.
And that's why I kind of went, oh, this is not good. And this is when the process started. The process I explained a little earlier. Going into the ambulance, yes, I was unconscious.
Yeah. And you mentioned there was like a 2.5 week period that you spent with your aunt, right?
Yes.
Can you tell me about that?
Okay, so there's some really neat stories from the hospital. And I remember my mom telling me, because we'll get into the memory part in a second, but I had no short-term memory whatsoever. I had no memory, period, because of my injury. And my Aunt Viv was on my shoulder, my guardian angel on my right shoulder, or left shoulder, sorry. And I had to go for an x-rays, and the doctors came in, or the nurses come in to wheel me out of the room. And okay, Mr. Dukeshire, are you ready to go? I said, yep, no problem. Just give me a second. I have to get this angel off my shoulder. And my Aunt Viv hung out with me every day for 2.5 weeks. It was just amazing. Just amazing.
Sorry, I'm not sure I followed that. I thought you were out for like 2 months in a coma.
Oh no, 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay.
In the hospital for 2.5 months.
Gotcha. Okay, so once you became conscious, then like your aunt was on your shoulder and hanging out with you for those after that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so Aunt and I hung out for 2 weeks when I was in a coma. She kept me company, and that's when the outer body experience happened in the hospital and everything else. And I was awake in the hospital. I was conscious in the hospital. I did not know what was going on because my brain did work. I was still alive. The physiology was still working and ticking, and everything was working fine. But I have no memory, even to this day. I have no recollection of what happened. Right. And when they took me out, what I'm telling you now are all things that my family has told me. And my sister also wrote a journal. And the journal helped her basically cope and deal with what was going on. And it was to give me a memory of a time that I couldn't remember.
Wow.
And it's, again, that I got that journal on my first birthday after I got out of the hospital. And it, again, like the video, it took me 2 years to read that book. Man, it was tough. It was tough. Very tough.
Yeah. So what was it like? I mean, so you were in the hospital 2.5 months. Your brain was basically from as far non-functioning as we can realistically recover from. What was that recovery process like for you?
Wow. So the part that I don't remember, the nurses would come in every morning and they had a cardboard clock, and they would practice with me every morning. Okay, Jay, what's the time? And they'd move the hands on the clock and ask me what time it was. Then they would ask me the date, and they would ask me what I had for breakfast. And for the first month, I couldn't remember. So picture this. You have breakfast at 9 o'clock. They come in and ask you this question at 9:08, and you can't remember what happened. I had no short-term memory whatsoever. And these people work with me and work with me and work with me. These are the team in the hospital. Then I was set up a different team once I was released from the hospital.
Right. And I want to ask you about what it was like, but I imagine you don't remember what it was like.
Well, I got a pretty good idea. I've talked with so many people now, right?
Okay. What was it like to not be able to remember anything?
Scary. I mean, a compromised brain. I've said this to many of my friends. I would break every single bone in my body not to have a compromised brain. So I have a traumatic brain injury right now as we talk. And if I hadn't told you, you'd never know. In early recovery, it was quite evident that something was wrong with me. With a compromised brain, again, you have no filter. And your executive functioning skills are messed right up. Executive functioning skills are controlled by the prefrontal cortex, or the front part of your brain, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And they control planning, focus, attention, multitasking skills, things like this. And I could do none of them. And to give you an idea, you wake up in the morning, you use the washroom and you shower and you do your breakfast and you plan your day, get ready to go to work. I had to learn how to do all that again. I forgot how to do everything. I didn't know how to do everything. So that's what I mean. I'd rather not have a compromised brain and break every bone in my body, seriously.
Yeah. And in that time, did you know that you had forgotten everything? Like, was it a frustration for you? Be like, I used to do all of this and now I can't, or was that like not even in the picture?
Not even the picture, not even in the picture at that point. When I got home, I was in bed probably for about 6.5, 7 months and I lied on my back and I counted the paint divot in the ceiling, and I had my window open. I could hear everybody outside, and I wanted to go outside so bad, but I was broken from head to toe. I couldn't move. Yeah, I remember it just being a difficult time and wanting to leave and getting really, really frustrated. And it was at that point. So with Ducati, I was recognized as one of the better techs around. I was really good at my job. I loved what I did, therefore it made my job easy. And I got to travel the world. It was like the dream job type thing. And I guess the point that I'm making is you had to have a lot of knowledge, a lot of memory, because there's a lot of information to remember when you're building a bike or you're tuning or setting up a bike, whatever it may be. And I would be in my room and I would be thinking things like, let's say, adding 1 + 1 together. I couldn't do that. And I
Right.
couldn't remember. I couldn't tell who was coming into the house. I couldn't remember one thing after another. I forgot everything. I didn't know what was going on. And at that particular point, it became very evident that something up here wasn't working properly. Yes, all the broken modes and everything else, I was fully aware of that because I was in so much pain and I couldn't move. And I had a cast on my leg and I was all band-aids up and stuff. But again, that didn't matter to me. What mattered to me and what concerned me was this, because it was a lot of time, a lot of years to gain the knowledge and the experience to be as good as I was. I put in everything to be as good as I was. And I hit my head and everything was just taken away from me. I mean, you work so hard to build a life, to build a career, and then a simple bump on the head and your memory's completely wiped. And 37 years of knowledge is gone. It's gone. And you have to rebuild your brain and you have to start working at that again, remembering things. And there's a term called neuroplasticity. And what neuroplasticity means, picture the brain as being malleable or being rubber, and it can repair itself. And how it repairs itself, it's done through neuroplasticity or neurogenesis. And what the brain does is it builds new neural pathways within the brain, different parts of the brain. And like a construction company, the brain will keep building these new highways until it finds the fastest and most efficient highway. And now that becomes the permanent highway that the brain will use. And the brain will borrow other cells from good parts of the brain to repair the damaged part of the brain. And this is the process known as neurogenesis, and it happens over time. And some people, I have to say this, I'm really lucky. I shouldn't have bounced back the way I did. 2018, advocated for Hamilton Health Sciences. I spoke at the ABI conference at Hamilton Place. My 2018 was great. I did magazine articles and shoots. I did podcasts, everything. And it was a way to express myself of what's going on. And then my plan was to go back to school so that I can give back to the people with a brain injury. And if I could make their recovery, their journey just a little bit easier, then I've did my job, that I can help them. And that's what kind of got me onto the road that I'm on now.
Right. So in that time where, so you've come out of the coma, you're at home at this point, you're starting to, like, your brain's starting to repair itself, and you just can't remember things, like the executive functioning just is not working. And you're there, you said 6 or 7 months, right?
Yes.
That's a long time to just lay in bed.
Yeah, it's the occupational therapists, they had ramps to my doorways. They put double railings in my staircases because my left leg didn't work and all the broken vertebrae in my back and my neck, I wasn't doing well. So they put a wheelchair, crutches, and a commode on every floor of my house to try to make my life a little bit easier. And I remember they put hand railings on my bed so that I wouldn't fall out of my bed because of the experiences that I had at the hospital. And the occupational therapist was fantastic. They set up my home perfectly. And when I come home, it was a little unnerving because there was a line of people there to see me. I mean, they're my friends and my family, amazing people. But with a brain injury, you don't comprehend it. You don't think this way. And I became very paranoid because I didn't recognize my surroundings. I didn't recognize the house. I didn't recognize my car in the driveway. I didn't recognize the park across the street. I'm thinking, where am I? And I'd lived there for like 15 years. and I couldn't remember nothing. And again, being in bed and with the window open, I have all these things going on inside my head, but I can't understand why this is happening. I can't understand why this thought is happening, or what does this thought mean?
Right.
And it was just like complete chaos or discombobulation in my head. It was tough, very tough.
Yeah. When did that start to shift for you?
Oh boy. Okay. So how this happened, there's a bit of a process. So I worked with a neuropsychologist for 5 years, and I worked with, oh boy, advanced rehabilitation therapist for 10 years. And I did 3.5 years in physiotherapy to put my body back together. So how the process worked is once I got home, we started working on some physio first so I could be functioning, I could move. And then I got a call from General Hospital, and I was set up with an occupational therapist who in turn set me up with a neuropsychologist. And I won't use names, but this gentleman, he's an amazing person. And working with this person, I would see him 3 times a week. And the idea is to see him less and less every time, obviously. And when I worked with this person, he would teach me coping mechanisms and skills and give me tools on how to function or cope out in the world or past the front door, so to speak. And the RT, the rehabilitation therapist, what her job was is she took me from John's office and what I learned in John's office and helped me apply it out in the real world and reintegrate me back in society. And that took a long, long, long time. And we did various tests and various procedures to test me to get my brain to work. For instance, we sat down a closed bookstore, and I'd have a book, and she would read the chapter first, and then she'd say to me, she goes, okay, now you read the chapter. So picture this place is very busy, and my processing speed is extremely slow. I get agitated and overwhelmed very easily. So even somebody without a brain injury, you're trying to read, try reading in a football stadium with 1,000 people.
Yeah.
That's how it was like in my brain, right? So I'd read the book, and what the RT did is she would quiz me on the chapter that I just read, because she read it obviously first, and she would make little questions just to see if I caught on. And we practiced this every time. And another test we did too is we used to go to the C Wing at Mohawk College. That is a very, very busy part of the school come common hour, right?
Yeah.
And there was people everywhere. And what we would do is we'd make a plan. She would never, ever, ever set me up for failure. We'd always talk, devise a plan first, so I was prepared before I jumped into anything. And one tool that worked for me, I'm a guitar player. I've played my whole life. Eddie Van Halen being my favorite guitar player. It's horrible that he's passed recently, but anyway, what I would do is when I got to that point, when I felt overwhelmed, my triggers, my tip off would be is I'd grit my teeth and my face would go red and my body temperature would increase like crazy. That's when I knew, okay, I had to make a move, man, because I'm going to derail type thing, right? And what I did is like I say, I just went inside my head and I would think of solos or guitar riffs or tunes, and I just start thinking music, and I would think of the theory of the music and how it would be scored, and that would take my brain away from the present moment, help me calm down. Then I could come back into the present moment, like, okay, I got this. And we had these types of resets all the time. I had to use them every time.
Yeah. Was this process of rebuilding, like, do you think that this is akin to growing up in any way? Like, kind of how a child has to like learn how to do everything? Like,
absolutely. So we have the adolescent phase of growing up, and this sort of the front of the brain. I'm not going to say prefrontal cortex. The front of the brain is developing, and we're developing skills on how to cope with life as we grow up. So for me, yes, it was kind of like learning all over again. And when I talk to family and friends, my best friend actually said, he goes, so my nickname is Duke. Everybody calls me Duke. He goes, Duke. He goes, it was odd because you could almost see inside your brain because you had no filter. So it was whatever movie was playing inside your brain or whatever you were thinking would immediately come out and you would act out on it. And he goes, when you were in the hospital, he goes, you're looking at all the machines and you're trying to diagnose all the machines in the hospital. And this is what I did. My job is to look at the problem, devise a plan to fix the problem so it never comes back again. This is a tech, right? Despite the brain injury, I was still a tech in the hospital, not knowing what I was doing, but I was trying to repair the hospital machines type thing, right? And it was just, it's part of who I am. And he did say it was odd. He goes, it was almost like you could see inside your brain the way you're acting. He goes, you had no filters whatsoever. He goes, your sentences were all over the place, very discombobulated. He goes, your thought process was up and down. And he goes, you'd go from one extreme to the other. And with the frontal lobe or the front of the brain, the biggest thing is emotion control. That was my biggest challenge above all. What this means is I would go from full-blown rage to laughing to crying, all within 5 minutes. My mind, my brain would shift through emotions like a Rolodex, and I had no control, and I did not know when it was coming. Long story short, for my caregivers, they had a difficult time for me. And there's a term that we use called caregiver burden. I actually facilitated one of these groups when I was at the hospital, working with some people, and I had a tough go, but I don't remember nothing. So it was kind of easy for me, but the people that cared for me, man, I gave them a really hard time. I did.
The emotion irregulation, like going all over the place, did that start to go away? Well, so did it go away because the brain was healing, or because you learned how to cope with emotions again, or both?
The brain was healing, but again, learning coping mechanism, coping strategies. To this day, I still have a traumatic brain injury, and I still have days that are tougher than others. And still, my brain will catch me off guard, or it'll throw me a curveball out of nowhere. But now I have this massive toolbox of tools, meaning coping mechanisms and strategies that I can jump into the toolbox, I can grab a tool, and I can deal with it before it comes out of here. I hear it come in here, okay, that's not good. We've got to straighten this out, man, before it comes out here type thing. No filter with brain injury is a big, big issue. I got into a lot of trouble, actually. yeah, it's not good. But I had to be taught how to do that again, right?
Yeah. Do you feel that it would be beneficial for us as a society to teach these coping mechanisms that we teach for brain injury patients to people in general?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you don't need a brain injury to go sideways, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
Again, they call an ABI or a TBI, acquired brain injury, TBI, traumatic brain injury. They call it the hidden injury because you can't see. You can't see. I don't have no scars or arms growing out the back of my head or something. It's in here and you can't tell. And again, in the beginning, when I spoke, it wasn't good. Now it's a lot different because of years of practice and working with a fantastic team at the hospital who could teach me and educate me. And now what I've done is just put me in this direction, this path now, where I've taken these skills and then I work with people like myself to try to help them make things better for them.
Nice. Yeah. Can you share any tools that you think were the most beneficial for you?
Okay, so what I did is, again, the music in my head was fantastic. That was a very dear thing to me. My niece, Jenna Brooke, wow, love her. So I had a picture of her on my phone, and when I became agitated or things were starting to shift on me, I'd open my phone and I'd look at Jenna Brooke, and for whatever reason it may be, it would calm me down. Now let me explain a little bit about Jenna Brooke. Now, as far as the hospital goes, all my family's at the hospital, and I cannot remember nothing. I didn't remember my mom's name. I didn't recognize my father, my sister, nobody. But Jenna Brooke, my sister Jen was carrying Jenna Brooke in the hallway, and I heard Jenna Brooke, she started laughing in the hallway, and I started crying out of nowhere. And I was yelling Jenna Brooke's name at the top of my lungs. And my family was so happy because I remembered somebody. With Jenna Brooke, I just have this special connection with her. I don't know what it is. And what the hospital did is they'd sit Jenna Brooke down on my hospital bed, and I'd have a conversation with this 9-month-old person, right? But this person calmed me down. And I was just like, and I would just chat with her like I'm having a conversation with you. I'm a 37-year-old man talking to a 9-month-old child, but I don't know the difference. So I'm just chatting it up. But what it did is calm me down. And I didn't go sideways in the hospital. I had a couple of instances in the hospital I didn't do so well. And again, when I was trying to get to bed, I kept ripping all the tubes and stuff out of my body. And with my left leg being broken, I get out of bed and I completely fall down flat in my face because my left leg wasn't working. They strapped me to the bed type thing. So what they did is they didn't use, it's a better word, they used Jenna Brooke to sit beside me in bed and I would just talk and it would calm me down and allow all the doctors and everybody else in the room to get their stuff together for the next plan, so to speak.
Yeah. At what point did you gain your memory back or start to gain it back?
Yeah, that came in time. How that started to happen was when I started working with the neuropsychologist. And again, it showed me ways to help memory, showed me ways to personalize information. So so I could remember. So biggest thing that I just couldn't remember names. As foolish as this may sound, I like rice cakes, caramel rice cakes. So caramel rice cakes for me, I'm one of these people, an exercise person, and caramel rice cakes, it's a blast of carbohydrates after you exercise type thing. You have to have it, whatever. These caramel rice cakes, I remembered when I went to my placement, I was volunteering at St. Joe's, the Stay-Well program. And my neuropsych and RT had set this up for me. And it was my first time being reintegrated back into the world with this discombobulated brain, so to speak. And I remember walking into the hospital and just being like really, really nervous. It took me probably 2 hours. I walked around the parking lot before I could walk to the front door because I was so nervous, so nervous. You conquer step at a time, baby steps, right? Baby steps for everything. I mean, it takes so long. And that point on, I'd been working with John probably for about a year. And my memory was starting to work well because he was showing me tricks. Again, personalized information. So where I was going with the caramel rice cakes, there was a client I worked with in the hospital. His name was Carm. Well, the rice cakes I used to eat were caramel. So I would remember caramel rice cakes and I would associate caramel with Carm, and that's how I remembered his name. Right. And this is known as personalized information. It helps with people with memory problems.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. When I'm trying to remember names, I'll often associate like Jay with all of the J's that I know. And then it's like in the J bank. So yeah, something similar to that, right? We're remembering through association.
For sure. And when I studied going back to school, all the blue ink on a page completely it frazzled me. I couldn't do it. My brain, I couldn't decipher the information. I couldn't process all the information because there was a bunch of this blue ink on a white page. So what I learned to do is I would break the page down into sections of different color. And my brain was able to understand and absorb the information on the page much better. If I just looked at a white page with a bunch of ink on it, well, not so. I couldn't decipher what the page was saying. And writing papers was a challenge because myself, I'm stubborn, I'm very persistent, and I'm very driven. And I would work on these papers. And with the brain injury, the brain will give you signs when it's time to like, okay, we're done now. Let's just go home, go to bed, relax, we're finished. I would keep pushing because that's just the kind of guy I am. And
right.
With that said, it's gotten me today to where I am because of the hard work. But in writing a paper, I would be writing, and I'm trying to fight what's going on. So I'm going to get through this. I'm just going to keep researching. I'm going to keep writing. I'm going to keep putting all the information and make sure my plagiarizing is not happening and everything is happening, or the APA formatting is fantastic. And I'd keep pushing. And then that was the first chance. My brain said, okay, you're done. Then the second time around, the best way I could describe it, like the master switch on your fuse panel where it shuts the whole house down. That's what my brain did. And brain goes, okay, we warned you once. You're not listening. We're not doing well right now. We're extremely tired. You're not paying attention. We're just going to shut you off. It literally shuts my body off. Like I crashed. The weirdest thing. It's unbelievable how it works, right? And I was warned about it from the neuropsych, but I thought I'd try it anyway. And I remember writing papers about 2, 3 in the morning with big papers for the brain disorders management program. What I did learn when I did push, and I tried to push through this being stubborn, when I read the content the next day, it was horrible. I kind of go, why did I do that? I should have just stopped when I stopped. And anybody who writes substantial papers knows this. When you're really, really tired and you keep pushing, you might as well just stop because the content's going to be horrible. It's going to be very horrible, right?
Right.
And when I read the papers the next day, it was horrible. But this is what I mean with the brain. It gives you signs when it shuts you down.
Yeah. And so you didn't just, have a traumatic, dying experience coming back from that, both mentally and physically, but you also went on to then get more schooling, right?
I did. So I had to reinvent myself, and that was difficult. I put a lot of time into Ducati and bikes, and that was my true love. And it was a movie star career. It was amazing. But working with the neuropsych, I just about said his name, working with the neuropsychologist and the RT, my brain was up and going. Everything was working well. And from the Stay-Well program, the first program I took was a recreation therapist program at Mohawk College. And it was the boss or the manager of the Stay-Well program at the St. Joe's that actually said, Jay, she was like, why don't you try this? She was like, you're natural at this kind of stuff. And that was my first attempt going back to school. And I was really, really scared. but it was great because Mohawk College has accommodations for people that have disabilities. And I would have a note taker that wrote notes down for me in the class because I couldn't watch PowerPoint and listen to the prof at the same time. I couldn't multitask. That's a big issue with some of the frontal lobe issues. And this person would take the notes down for me so that I could just pay attention to the teacher and listen to what the teacher was saying. And then I could get extra time to write exams, and they would put me in a room that was, how do I say, dead quiet, so to speak. Oh, that's a bad choice of words. Extremely quiet. You had an extension on time of 7 hours to write your exam. They'd give you 3 hours to write the exam. And because of the accommodations at the school and learning how to use the accommodations at the school, I was able to be successful with the first program I took.
Nice. And what did you take after that?
The program I took out was called the Brain Disorders Management Program. And the whole idea of that program was I wanted to learn more about me because I didn't understand me. And I wanted to dive into more theory and understand the mechanics of the brain and the neural networks of the brain and why things happen the way they did. And specifically with the frontal lobe damage, I want to understand why this happened and why I'm acting this way. So as it turns out, CBC did an article on me, and Hampton Health Sciences also wrote an article on me as well. And my teacher, Anne-Marie DePape, it's okay, it should be, so I should say Dr. Anne-Marie DePape, she has a PhD. And we had an open house before the program, and I walked into the classroom, and she goes, "Hey, Jay," she was, "nice to meet you." And I went, "Nice to meet you. Like, who are you?" And she goes, "I know all about you." I went, "Okay." She was, I read your article from Hampton Health Sciences journals. And I went, "Oh." She goes, "And I read the CBC article too." She goes, "I'm so ecstatic to work with you. This is what she does. This is what she teaches. She has a person in her class with a traumatic brain injury, so we can work together." And right. I got to learn from the students in the class, and then I got to build this rapport and build even more tools. And I realized that okay, I can write a paper. So for the longest time, I thought that I wasn't too smart because of what was going on, and that weighed on me a lot. And when I get into school, it showed me that I could do things. I mean, I wrote papers that were like a 30-page paper, and I had to use 50 different references. They were very substantial papers. Describe the anatomy of the human brain. You can't write that in one page. Yeah. You can't do that, right? But within doing all this, I was able to learn about myself. I was able to learn what part of the brain controlled what and why, and the part of the brain that I damaged, why these other things happened to me and how I could repair them. And this is how I started to learn. And my whole idea was to take the information from the neuropsych, my RT, now take the information from Anne-Marie and the Brain Disorders Management Program, put it all together, and then start working with people. And this is the journey that I'm on now, along with HHH, the charity as well.
Right. It's just so incredible. And not like, okay, so, you came back from the edge, about as close to the edge as one can get, both in body and in mind.
Yes.
And then you went on to say, you know what? Yes, so I have all these barriers here. I have to relearn how to do basically everything.
Yep.
I'm going to go back to school now. And even though I don't believe that I'm smart enough to do this, even though I'm not entirely sure that I can do this, I'm still going to go for it. Mm. You then went on to become a recreational therapist, and you went and did this program in brain injury. And you went and rebuilt your body, and you do Physique, right?
I do. So I compete in a class called Physique class. The first show I did, exercise is a way of life for me. And having this physique, I have a muscular physique, and the boy, I'm thinking, the surgeon that put me back together, can't think of his name right now, orthopedic surgeon. I can't use his name, so I won't do that. But the person that put me back together, when I was going back to my checkups, when I was doing okay with my brain, he goes, the muscles of your body, they acted like armor. I went, okay, because who exercises thinking they're going to build this physique to act as armor? Right. You know what I mean? And he goes, because you had a strong core, he goes, that kept you from breaking your back. He goes, you should be in a wheelchair, Jay. He goes, the way you hit the curb, he goes, it's not good. And I said, okay. And he goes, the muscles around you and the muscles around your neck and your lower back, he goes, that's what saved you. And I went, okay. So it was a whole different meaning to exercising. And then when I went back to the gym, I went with the RT. And because of my brain being so discombobulated and the chaos going on inside my head, all the noises in the gym completely overwhelmed me. I could not stay in the gym for longer than 4 to 5 minutes at a time. It was a process, step-by-step process that the RT and I worked on, where I could stay in the gym for a little bit longer, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes. I know it sounds like really, really small intervals, but when you're in my shoes, 1 minute is like 2 weeks. It's unbelievable, right? And we'd work together and we devised a plan. And the first thing I had to do was learn how to exercise again, because wasn't working as far as it was before. I had to learn all range of motion. I had scar tissue and broken stuff everywhere, and my body didn't work. So I started and I went super slow, really focused on form, used super light weight, made sure I had the form perfect. And then as I increased the weight, then the weight would actually work for me because my line was bang on, my form was good. And with that said, to your question about your shows, I was challenged. I was dared to do a show, and I was really nervous. And again, this is all part of the brain injury. You're kind of like this around people, right? And
for anyone listening, you're kind of hiding around.
Yes,
people, right?
yes. Sorry. Yes, you're kind of hiding. You're looking around, and you're basically terrified of your surroundings. It's crazy. And I got dared to do the show, and at that point, I'd been exercising probably for about 9 months, and I thought, okay, let's do this, because I was actually going to do a bodybuilding show before my accident. So thank goodness it was the muscles, the armor that saved me. Now, because of my leg, the left leg being titanium from the knee down, I couldn't train with the weight on my legs no more. The organization, it was called OPA, the Change Ontario Physique Association. It's called, Canadian Physique Association, CPA now. They came up with a class called Men's Physique. So Men's Physique is basically the pretty boy in board shorts with muscles on the beach, to be totally honest with you.
Right.
And I'm going to get in a lot of trouble for saying that, but that's pretty much what it is. You're basically a fashion model type thing, right? And meaning legs aren't important. When you're in bodybuilding, it's about your legs. It's always about your legs. You have to have the full package. You have to have proportion. You have to have symmetry. Your biceps, they have to match the size of your calf. Your shoulders have to be wider than your waist. Your V-taper's got to start and come right down to the bottom. These are all things to help you in the class. So I started to research and learn what it takes to be successful at this class. And I went to it. I talked to some people. I got a bunch of knowledge and asked a lot of questions. I got a diet plan put together, and I just went for it. And I did my first show, and the first show I placed second. And oh wow, it was amazing.
Yeah.
And it kind of it set the bug. So long story short, I've did 2 provincial level shows. I have two first place finishes, and I have 3 second place finishes. And I have to requalify again, but at one point I was nationally qualified, and I was going to compete in BC, British Columbia, and then I would move, compete in New York, and then compete in Las Vegas. That was the round I was going to do. But so training for this show, I got really sick. There was a point in time where everybody had that really bad flu, like it was coming out of every orifice of your body type thing. And I got sick, but I'm training for nationals. It took me 5 shows to win, to qualify to do a national level show. So I'm trying to work through this as I'm really, really sick, and I have 0 energy. I mean, 25-pound dumbbells felt like 2,000 pounds, but I kept grinding. And my coach said to me, Sean, he goes, you're not responding to diet. So in this exercise world, there's nicknames. And my nickname is Genetic Freak. And he goes, this meaning my body responds really fast to weight changes and really fast to nutrition changes. And I can move, this isn't true, but just exaggerating. I can move a dumbbell 3 times and my muscle will just blow off my arm type thing.
Right.
That's what I mean by genetic freak. And going back to what Sean was saying, he goes, I've made some substantial changes in your nutrition. He goes, and your body's not responding. He goes, that's not, he goes, you respond like that. He goes, and you're not responding. He goes, and I was 4 weeks out before the show, and I was shredded, really, really lean, and see muscles and stuff everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And that's way too early. That's way too early to be that lean before stage time, right? And I said to Sean, I said, what are we supposed to do? He goes, I've upped your calories and your carbs like crazy and you're fast because you're not holding weight. He goes, go to the doctors. He goes, you have to go to the doctor. Something's wrong. I said, okay, no problem. And again, keep in mind, I'm training for a national level show. It's taken me 5 years or 5 shows in 3 years to get this, right? And I'm not going to stop for nothing. So I went to my doctors and I sat down. She knows me well. She goes, okay, Jay. She goes, you're not going to like what I have to tell you, but I have to tell you anyway. She goes, you're severely dehydrated, severely dehydrated. And I went, okay, I kind of figured that. She goes, worst case scenario. She goes, being so dehydrated, your muscle bellies are dehydrated as well. And meaning when the muscles have water in it, you're going to tear a muscle. She goes, if you tear a muscle that requires surgery, she goes, now you're off the gym for a year. I kind of gotcha. She goes, I know you. She goes, you're going to go back to training anyway. So what I'm telling you right now, that's going to be that one time that you move the weight the wrong way and you're going to tear a muscle or something and you're going to be in surgery and you're going to be off for a year. And to gracefully bow down and step away from doing a national level show, that was extremely tough for me to do. I worked really hard to get there. And I know I shouldn't say this, but my coach was at the show. He did go to the Vancouver, BC. And the gentleman that won first place in men's physique, oh boy, my coach, he goes, Jay, he goes, this guy had nothing on you, man. And I went, I shouldn't say, man, this is how he explained it to me, right? He goes, this person had nothing on you. And I said, okay. He goes, honestly, he goes, I think you would have had the guy. And I went, but you know, that's how life goes sometimes. It throws a curveball. And what matters is how you bounce back from a situation, right? You take the positive from the situation and you grow as a person so that you don't make that same mistake twice, so to speak, right? And I walked away from that. I went, okay, I could have did okay, but you know what? I got really sick. I decided to bow down. Thank goodness I did. And I would have to requalify to do nationals again, but maybe one day. With this COVID and everything going on right now and all the gyms and stuff being closed, I mean, to do a show now would be, I mean, you're training 6 days a week, you're eating 8 times a day. You're on this, life revolves around show prep, not the other way around. So with the economy the way it is now, good luck. Good luck.
So like it's so impressive, Jay, because there's so many people in our society that I don't want to offend anybody by saying this, but from my observations in my work and what I've seen, and even in myself, in our society, we often tend to crumble at like small, rather insignificant things, like in the grand scheme of things, right? And yet here you are, where like literally the hardest hand that could have happened to you was dealt, and then you came back from it, and then you continue to take on challenge, and then you went and you competed in physique, and you got to qualify for the nationals, and then had to step down from that. Like, how did you not quit throughout all of this? How do you keep going? How do you find that motivation to say, you know what, it is what it is, but I'm gonna become stronger as a result of that? Like, where does that come from?
I think the first step for me was accepting what was going on. Again, I worked hard with my career. I worked really, really hard at exercising before for the type of show I was going to do before. And when you realize, it's like somebody with an addiction problem. Until you realize you have an addiction problem, you can't fix the addiction problem. No matter what counselor, what therapist, you can have the best working for you. If you can't accept it yourself and realize that you have an issue, then you're not going to fix it. So I think for me, the first step was to realize that, okay, this needs some work and I need some professional help to guide me and get me on a path, on a road that I can handle, a road that I can understand, and a road that I can obtain and bring to life type thing. And it took some time. There's no doubt about that. But you kind of get through it. You do what you got to do. And it took a long time. I still struggle with it today a little bit, but I'm sort of getting kind of off topic. But you have to kind of reel me back in a little bit here. So
yeah, like how do you not give up?
So that's me as a person. I've been this way my whole life. I've always given it 100% of what I do every time. Why half-ass something? What's the point? Because the end result's not going to be good, and you're going to be doing it again anyway. And it's something I learned from my father as a young guy. Dad used to call me Jake. He goes, Jake. He goes, it's okay to make mistakes because you got to make mistakes to learn. He goes, it's critical because you have to learn. He goes, you make the same mistake twice. He goes, you're not doing so good. And I went, okay. And then you just, again, this determination, this perseverance that I have, I can't sit still. Anybody that knows me, I can't sit still for 5 minutes. It's incredible. but I knew that I had to repair myself because I wanted to be to a certain state of being like I was before. And I was lucky enough because Aunt Viv, my guardian angel, the people upstairs who kept me down here anyway, they allowed me, or my brain and my lung, my back, everything to start working again over time with working with people and working with therapy and stuff. Some people I met in the hospital, they weren't so lucky with brain injury. They were at a point where they couldn't recover. And my parents were told that I might have to be put in a facility for brain injury people because we're very, very difficult to deal with in the early stages. And they said that Jay he may never bounce back again. And lucky enough I did. And here I am today talking to you, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And do you think that everybody is capable of having that level of determination and perseverance?
So that's a loaded question. So I know for me, I know a lot of the people in my circle are like that. There's that saying, tell me who you hang around with and I'll tell you who you are. A lot of my friends, I surround myself with very positive people. My one great friend, the founder of this charity, she works unbelievably hard. I just admire her. The way she works, she goes nonstop like the Energizer Bunny on no sleep. And it blows me away what she does. And I'm just so impressed with what she does and just so intrigued by what she does. And these are the kind of people, again, that I surround myself with. And that's what motivates you. That's what motivates you. And you remember things that you used to do in your life before that you want back again. Just the fact that I had to learn how to walk again. I had to learn how to eat again. I had to learn how to shower again. I had to learn how to tell time again. Like all these things that we take for granted, everything was taken away from me, right? And you got to start again. Again, the level of brain injury, you can either rebuild yourself or you can't. I was able to rebuild myself. There's things that I wanted. I wanted to be a certain person again. And I did whatever it took to get it. I talked to anybody and asked questions. The neuropsychologists that I work with used to send me home with assignments. And in early recovery, I couldn't do simple word assignments. I couldn't do a simple puzzle. I know this sounds horrible, but I could look at a picture with 9 or 8 different figures in the picture. And there's this person, this neuropsych, say, okay, tell him what you see. Give me a minute to look at the picture, pulls it away. Okay, tell him what you saw. I couldn't remember nothing. So this is when you start to learn personalizing information, help with the memory, and everything starts to come back again, right? And as far as the person goes, thank goodness that I was that strong-willed person. I've worked really hard. I've always been this way, you know. I can't speak for all. Unfortunately, that's what I meant by a loaded question. I got to be careful how I answer this, right? And for me, I just worked hard. I've been instilled with those kind of motivational skills and working hard from both my parents growing up. Both my parents are extremely hard workers. Again, I admire my friend. I can't name names right now, but the founder of HHH. She works extremely hard. She burns the candle at both ends, and she runs around the clock steady. It's amazing. And that reminds me of me. And those are the tools, the things that drove me to get to where I am today. And when I tell her about my story, she's in awe when she hears my story. And this is how I kind of got started with her and her charity and working the outreach programs in Toronto and Hamilton and stuff. And again, giving back to people, making somebody's quality of life that much better. You shouldn't have to be this way. Things can be better, believe me. And then they look at me and I have all these muscles and stuff. No, I'm not being arrogant. But the point that I'm making is people look at me and they're like, that happened to you? Yep. Broke 17 bones, flatlined 3 times, and suffered a massive brain injury. It's taken me 11 years to rebuild my brain. And they're like, all of a sudden they're your best friend because you've, how do you say, not dropped to their level. That's extremely rude, but you can amalgamate, you can be on the same level as them. And then they drop their guard, you drop your guard, and then you can talk. And oftentimes I've shared my story and people, they loosen right up. They start to talk to you. They become very humble. They drop their guard. And this is my way in. And it's funny when you start talking to people and you just watch them perk up. And I've often said this to my friend, that typical stereotype with the guy with muscles and stuff. And it just happened to me quite often. And I've now become a very educated person with going back to school and teaching this brain disorders management courses and neurosciences. The neurosciences is amazing, right? I love it. It's taught so much about me. But I remember, I won't use names, but I'm in the gym and I'm exercising. And this guy, big dude and stuff, and he has an attitude, again, that stereotype that goes with that physique, so to speak. How do you say, the meathead person type thing, right? And he starts talking to me, and I will talk to anybody, and I will treat everybody the same. Everybody's equal, regardless. And we start talking, and he's talking to me, and he's being a little cocky and stuff. And I thought, okay, no problem. Like, I mean, how do you do this? How do you do that? What do you need this? So I went, as this person from the charity would say, I went completely nerd on this person. And he didn't know what to do, because here's this jacked guy with a brain, you know, and I'm sorry, everybody out there, I'm not talking about anybody, but this is about me right now. And he was in awe. He couldn't believe, because, well, a guy with muscle shouldn't have that kind of brain. Well, no, that's not how it works at all, actually. I've worked very, very hard for my knowledge. Exercising for me now, it creates balance in my life. It helps calm me down. It gives me structure. It's not about the young guys building muscle to impress the ladies. It's not about that. It's about being calm and, again, creating balance. And when I still have tough days with this, and I'll go to the gym, it just calms me down. It calms me down. And the gym is one of my favorite places. Again, exercising for me, it's a lifestyle, right? I mean, it has to be. It's the only way. Only way.
Yeah, totally. I love that. And I apologize for that, the tough question there, but I thought it'd be interesting.
Oh, for sure. And I've been very mindful how I answer that, right? I mean,
yeah.
Lots of people watching your show, so
yeah.
I don't want to upset anybody.
So I wanted to ask you, regarding the out-of-body experience. We often think that the human experience is, okay, I've got this body, I've clearly got this mind, but what you experienced was something beyond that.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that? What else is there?
Yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying. To comprehend it, nobody really knows, right? I mean, before this happened to me, I'm kind of going, whatever, right? And it happened to me, and it completely changed me. And it's funny, because this person, the founder of HHH, we were just discussing this the other day about out-of-body experiences and premonitions and all this, and having a sixth sense, so to speak. I somewhat have this, and she does as well. To this day, I've seen some bizarre things. I don't know if having an out-of-body experience or getting close to crossing over, if this is what caused it, I don't know. I can't make much sense of it. All I know is it happened, and while this was happening to me, I'm thinking, okay, I've seen this on TV before. I've heard people talk about this, but no, this is happening to me. And even with that, you still don't understand why it's happening, but yet you're extremely calm, you're relaxed, you're not agitated that you're going to pass away or something. It's just, it's a feeling of just this blissfulness and serenity. I can't describe it really. And I can understand when they cross over, they don't want to come back. Research is quite a bit now, and the blissfulness, this afterlife, this afterworld, apparently is supposed to be just amazing. I never did see it. I saw the light way down at the end of the tunnel that I described, but I never walked into that light. And it was funny, because this light, it was almost drawing me to the light. I was walking aimlessly in this black fog, so to speak. I couldn't see nothing, and it was cool and stuff, but I could see this light way at the end of the tunnel. And even when my aunt grabbed my hand and asked me to turn around and come back, I didn't want to go. I'm like, no, I want to go to, no, you have to come with me. Come with me, hon. She goes, no, hon, you're going the wrong way. And I went, oh, okay, but I want to go. And thank goodness she pulled me back, because I was heading that way towards the light, right? I mean, I was pretty broken and banged up at that point. And I didn't go. It almost draws you to the light. That's why I can really understand and speak that when you get to that other side, you don't want to come back. And the research that I've done, I've read this many times, that it's just so blissful on the other side that you don't even want to come back here. And for some reason, I'm still on this earth. I have a purpose. I mean, I tried 3 times, right? And I was sent back every time. And I'm here for whatever reason it may be. And I think I found out what I have to do. And that's to help people and try to make their journey with whatever situation they're in, make it easier for them. Because, man, I'm not going to use the word. I've been to HE double hockey sticks like 12 times and back. That's insane. Like, I've had a tough go.
Yeah. How has this impacted your views on death? Like, what do you think about death now?
So I don't think about death very often, actually. When I do refer to death, if I'm having a bad day or whatever, you just have one of those days, right?
Yeah.
I'll often reflect on early recovery, and it humbles you in a hurry, like fast. I don't know how to describe it really. I mean, it just humbles you, right? And you don't you don't truly understand it till you walked a mile in my shoes, so to speak, right? And the amount of work that I had to do to become the person that I am today is unbelievable. It really is. I worked hard, relentlessly. I just kept going and going and going. And when they would tell me to stop, I'd keep going anyway because I had this vision. I had this image that I wanted to be. I had this goal that I wanted to achieve, and I did whatever it took to get the goal, providing that all this stuff worked properly. With the medical help that I got, I was able to get the brain and my body to function again. And when I knew that part was going to be okay, then I jumped in both feet and just started swinging. And I went for it. That was the only way. The only way. And yeah, I agree with you. I mean, not all people have that. Thank goodness I had it. Thank goodness I had it. And with that said, I also had the help too. I've spoke to many, many, many people with brain injuries that didn't have the privilege that I had to work with professional people to help me with a compromised brain. I've worked with some people now that have not had that amazing opportunity, and they're not doing so well. They're not doing so well. It takes a long time, takes a great deal of patience, and an amazing medical team. Yeah, amazing medical team. I can't stress that enough, really.
Yeah, this is when I first started this podcast, I was really interested on what would be the recurring theme that I saw in
Okay.
people overcoming, and support is always there. It's the support of the people around you is like so huge.
It's everything. It's everything. I mean, my family and friends, they picked me up off the ground several times.
Yeah.
Again, as tough as I am, I had a lot of trouble. It's not easy, right?
Yeah.
And they say you fall down, you get back up, and you keep swinging. That's not so easy with a compromised brain because you can't understand what's going on, nor can you control when it's going to happen. And your guard's always up because you're paranoid that you're going to lash out or do something obnoxious, and it took a long time. And it was my family, my friends that supported me. My buddy Chad, my buddy Serge, they would come and pick me up when I was all broken. And Chad, I remember Chad, he put me over his shoulder and he grabbed my walker and he walked me to his truck. He put my walker in the back of the truck and he put me in the seat, put my seatbelt and stuff on, and took me out for the day. And this is what my friends did for me, just to kind of so I could breathe fresh air and see the outside world again. And the first time I went outside was with my dad, actually, and we went to my sister's cottage. And I couldn't believe that the world was that magnificent. I couldn't believe it. I walked out, I went, wow, like this is bloody amazing. I'd just seen it for 35, 37 years of my life. But on this particular day, it was just euphoria. It was amazing, right? And just driving up to my sister's cottage with my dad, it was a whole new experience for me. Although I'd driven to that cottage, I don't know, 200 times. But this particular day, I was like, this person looking around kind of going, wow, so that's what that looks like? Or that it makes that kind of noise? Like I was learning all over again. Like you were saying, you have to retrain your brain and your brain, and you kind of go back to the adolescent stage type thing, right? And knowing what I know now and what I've learned in the brain disorders management program, I understand as well. And I look back and I kind of smirk, and I smirk and I'll make jokes about it to myself and my friends because I can, because I'm the person with the injury, and they're not derogatory, they're not obscene or obnoxious, but they're little digs that I'll make to myself. I remember that. Yeah, I remember that. And my friends will laugh, or my family will laugh with me, right? And I'll take that into the room with my clients, into the classroom with my clients, and I'll throw a jab in there every now and then, because people with traumatic brain injuries, they understand what I'm saying. And I can relate to somebody with a brain injury far more than anybody else can. Sorry, just we have brain surgeons and neurosurgeons and stuff. I do not have their mentality at all. I'm not saying I do, but walking a mile in my shoes, you quite don't understand it until you've experienced it, right? And you can read books and you can watch movies and everything else until you have it, you quite don't understand it.
Yeah, it would be like reading all of the books on swimming, but never having actually swam. Until you're in the water, you don't really understand swimming, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's the best way to put it. And I remember when I first came back into life, I mean, I worked for a little under a year before I took the BDM course. And a buddy of mine, Steve Tubick, they own Steve and Rick's Auto up on the mountain here in Hamilton. Those guys are like family to me. They're amazing people, right? And I've known Steve and Rick my whole life. I met those guys when I was like 16 years old, right? And when I come out of the hospital, Steve's wife is a nurse. She's retired now. Like she's not because of the family. She understands brain injury. She used to work at West Fifth, so she understands the stuff well, right? And she had kind of quizzed Steve a little bit on what to expect from me when I walked in. And I remember sitting down with Steve. The fact that he would give me a job, I thought was amazing because this was my chance to prove myself in the world again. I'm actually going to work. I'm going to do a job, and they had this automotive place, and I'm going to work on cars. And there's a great amount of knowledge that is needed to work on cars, especially with today's car. The technology is ridiculous, right? Even with the motorcycles. And I went in. They're very easygoing, very easygoing with me, and they didn't give me grief or nothing. They worked with me, and they allowed me to grow as a person. And how do you say, get back up on your feet, so to speak, right? And I remember working on cars and not knowing how. Oh my gosh, how do you do this? How do you do that? How do you do this? And the guys would come in and they helped me, right? And this went on for a year, and then I realized I went, it's not what I want to do. I want to help people, or on the cognitive level, more of a health-oriented based type thing. And that's when I went back to school. And believe it or not, the BDM course, Brain Disorders Management Program, I saw it on Facebook of all things. Facebook. I saw it on Facebook. I'm kind of going, oh, what's that? Hang on a sec. I scrolled back. I read it and I went, you know how you just know something's real and something good for you? You just get a buzz. I saw that. I went, I have to do this. I have to do this. I have to do this. I have to understand more of what's going on here. Although, I almost said the names, my neuropsych and my RT, they gave me my world back. There were still things that I didn't understand and I wanted to know the answers for. And people that know me, that's how my brain works. Again, this person of this charity, she goes, man, she goes, just live for day. She goes, you're always like 2 months down the road, and I can't help it, right? And I'm learning through her many things that are helping me actually, and it's fantastic. But yeah, Steve and Rick, they helped me huge, and I was able to learn how to be around people again, and working with a neuropsychologist to shed some light on the tech industry with motorcycles and stuff. I've had a value shift. And what the neuropsych explained to me is I've had the biggest value shift of all. I've gone from things to people, meaning, so working on the bikes before, put me in the corner with my toolbox, your bike and my hoist, leave me alone. I'm a very personal person. But when I'm working on your bike, I'm in the back. There's a reason why there's a wall there and a locked door. And I would work on the bike. If you have to talk to me, okay, come back, say something to me. But if you really don't need to, please don't. Your bike will be 100% perfect because that's how I am. It's got to be meticulous. Or I'm very meticulous. The bike's got to be perfect because when you're setting up a motorcycle or tuning a bike for somebody that's in a world-class race and that bike fails mechanically because you had your hands on it, that's unacceptable. I mean, when there's $100,000 purse on the line and the guy's bike quits because you forgot to tighten up a bolt or something, well, it's not good. So long story short, this is why I ask people, just let me do my thing. So with that said, I've gone from things, the machines, now I've gone to people. I've become this very social person. I was more of an introvert before, totally. Or now, not that I'm this extreme extrovert, I'm not, but I'm 1,000% more sociable. I like to talk to people. I like to learn from people. I like to ask questions. If I could have it my way, I would be a full-time student. I love learning. I love researching. I love writing papers. APA formatting, that used to drive me crazy. I got it down pat now. I can in-text citations, all that. I remember learning that. I'm just kind of going, we have to do this? Like, why, right? And if I could do school 24/7, I'd do it. And I have this brain that just wants to absorb all this information and learn. And I think it's maybe because it's, how do you say, an insecurity of losing everything. You're kind of scared to lose that again. You want to learn every bit of information that you see, that you hear, that you can touch, that you can feel, so to speak, right? And you want to compartmentalize everything up here and keep everything in your head and not have it go away. But yet you still have to live life, still got to work, still got to pay your bills and stuff, right? And that's when reality kicks in, right?
Yeah.
And that's life in general. I mean,
Yeah.
in general.
So throughout all of this, what would you say the biggest or one of the biggest lessons you learned was?
Don't take things for granted.
Yeah.
Life can throw you a curveball unexpectedly, as it usually does. And my curveball was a pretty substantial curveball. And to have everything that you know, everything that you like, everyone that you love, not everyone that you love, but what I said in the beginning, to have everything taken away from you, I can't even describe that feeling, but it's extremely difficult. It's extremely difficult to relearn everything that you've already put so much of your time into learn already. And now you're trying to learn with a compromised brain. Now you've got a bit of a deficit going on. And all these things that you've learned working with these people, you got to use every tool so that you can become successful. And I worked those tools like you wouldn't believe. And I made lots of phone calls. I asked lots of questions. I talked to a lot of people to help me learn and to help me navigate in this new life that I have now, this compromised brain, right? And I got as much information as I can so that I could move forward and I could be successful again. And I shouldn't, as we say, we shouldn't use this word, but I could be normal again. You know what I mean? Normal is a very, very loaded word, but I mean, to me, normal is just not forgetting nothing and being able to do everyday tasks, and to have to learn a simple task all over again. It was very frustrating. Anything very frustrating. And again, the take back from all this, don't take nothing for granted. Live every day to the fullest. Always, man. Always, because I was this Ducati tech, one of the better techs around. I got lots of perks. I stayed in great resorts and stuff. I got to go around the world. It was amazing. And it was gone like that, gone. And my life changed dramatically and it became extremely difficult to rebuild myself again. After I just finished doing this for 37 years of my life, now I had to start from ground zero again, right?
Yeah.
And when you sit back and you contemplate on that and you think about that, there's not too many things in life that can eight-ball you, like your recovery process. And this is what keeps you grounded, and it creates balance and it keeps you humble, keeps you very humble.
Yeah.
Very humble. Yeah.
What advice would you give to somebody who's maybe struggling on their own challenge right now, who's struggling on their own climb? What would you say to them?
What I did is I learned from the RT is I had a paper and a pen, and I wrote the pros and cons to everything. And this was part of devising my plan if I was going through an event or something in early recovery, so I knew what was going on. So I would say to somebody, use the same tool. First of all, understand what the situation is with you, admit that you have this situation going on, and then seek the right avenues to get for help. And have confidence. Have confidence. You're still an amazing person. You can talk to people and you can get help to become this amazing person again, and don't count yourself out. Don't write yourself off because you have a compromised brain or you have broken leg or whatever it may be. Things can be repaired, can come back. Yes, there's those unfortunate few that can't recover, but like myself, there's those few that can. And again, ask questions, recognize your situation, recognize the intricate details that make the situation happen, and everything will come together. And you have somebody guiding you. It's almost like a mentorship, so to speak. And you find that one person, and you'll know that one person because you just click with them right away. And talking just becomes extremely easy, and you understand what this person is saying, and you use their perspective, their knowledge, their advice, and you apply it to your own life, and you see if it works. And you take all this kind of information from various amounts of people, and you take what works for you, because clearly some things will not work for you. But if you're better having all these new tools than having none. As my sister's husband would say, it's better looking at it than for it. You know what I mean? And if I got 30,000 tools in my toolbox, man, and then it takes me, I don't know, 2 weeks to figure it out, then take me 2 weeks to figure it out, because I'll find that right magic formula that works for me. And keep in mind, everybody with an acquired brain injury or traumatic brain injury, everybody responds and reacts different because they're individuals. You know what I mean? I mean, they have character, they have personality. Jay Dukeshire with my brain injury, and then I have another person sitting beside me with the exact same accident, exact same symptom, exact same deficits, everything. We're going to be completely different people, and our recovery is going to be entirely different process, entirely. What works for him or her is not going to work for me, and vice versa, because we're people, right? Nobody's the same. Nobody's the same.
I think that really applies to all things human.
Agreed.
We are all unique and we are all different. And whether, we're recovering from a brain injury or we're battling obesity or cancer or whatever it is that we are currently challenged with, I think that, we need to find what works for us as individuals and really, really own that it's not going to be a cookie cutter approach. And that's okay. That's okay.
Right? Exactly. And you're constantly going to be devising and the plan all the time. It's always going to change because every day is different. You're constantly making little tweaks or modifications to the plan that's going. And
yeah,
I'll go back to my great friend again from Help Heal Humanity. That's the charity, which is okay because it's worldwide. Everybody knows it. But I've learned so much from her about me. She knows me really, really, really well. And we talk and she'll say things and I'll just kind of go, I did that. Not that she's being rude or she's throwing it in my face. She would never do that. She's an amazing person, but she'll talk and it's kind of go, oh, okay, got it. And she'll help me learn, right? And again, we can learn from everybody. Just ask questions. Don't be shy. Have the confidence. And you're not a damaged individual because you have something wrong with you. Everybody's equal. Just ask and get help. Everybody can be normal again, right?
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah. Awesome. So my next question, Jay, is not for you, but for our listeners. What are you going to do with all of this information, this inspiration, these lessons that you have learned? And what would become possible for you if you took even just one of these lessons and applied it to your life and your situation and your challenges or roadblocks? Jay, is there anything that you would like to add just before we wrap up here?
Anything's possible, man. Not man, sorry. I'm in a professional setting here. Anything is possible. Anything is possible. I mean, wow. I broke 17 bones. I flatlined 3 times and suffered a massive brain injury. Again, my brain, at 37 years old, I had the mentality of a 2-year-old child. I kid you not. The brain did not work. And with that said, be grateful, be humble. Just be cool. Don't think that you're better than anybody else. You know what I mean? Because you get cocky and develop this attitude. People don't care for these kind of people to begin with. But life has a funny way of throwing you a curveball every now and then, and it'll smarten you up in a hurry, let me tell you. And it'll humble you so fast, it'll make your head spin, so to speak, right? And yeah, it just really humbles you and it puts you down at ground zero and it sits you back down again, and it makes you revise everything that's happened around in your life. And again, as we've talked lots already, ask questions. Nobody knows everything. It's impossible, right? And you ask the question, you ask lots of people, because within those 15 people you talk to, there's going to be 1 or 2 that are going to relate with you, and you can reflect off each other, right? There's people I've talked to before, it didn't work, which is okay, but this is all part of the process, asking and just becoming a better person and learning and helping other people. For me, the whole idea is to give back. And why I started helping with Help Heal Humanity, the charity, to work with the homeless in these encampments in Toronto, or tent cities, but the proper name is encampments. When you come up with a hot meal and we bring them coats and we bring them shoes and boots and pants and t-shirts and sweaters and mitts and hats and when we bring them tents as well, they're so humble. They're so humble, and you walk up and they're grateful that you have a hot meal. And how I relate to that is being in the general hospital. Those people did that for me. I was broken, like from head to toe. Wow. And they took me in, they took care of my family, and they took care of me. And again, I'm here now talking to you because of that amazing medical team in the general hospital and the amazing team of neuropsych and RT and the OTs outside of the hospital that helped navigate me through life, or help navigate me through that reintegration society, so to speak. And I just had a vision pop in to give you an idea. So Dean took me to the mall, Limeridge Mall, very busy place. It's crazy, right? It took me 2.5 weeks to get out of her car and walk through the front door of that Limeridge Mall. I was so scared to walk into the mall. I don't know how else to say it. At one point, I actually started crying in the car.
Yeah.
I was paranoid, but she worked with lots of individuals like myself, so she understands, and she has many tools to help me, you know. And again, it took me 2.5 weeks to walk through that door. I walked in on the Sears side. I still remember this. And I remember walking in, and we went into the middle of the mall, which is 2 floors, and everybody kind of like walks in the middle of the floor or down by the railing. I was so close to the store or to the stores because I was paranoid of falling over the railing and falling down. That'll never happen. It doesn't happen unless you jump off the floor, right?
Yeah.
But in my brain, I couldn't understand that. So I was like hugging the store as I'm walking along the walls, and she goes, "Are you okay?" type thing. And I said, "Yes, I'm okay." And she goes, "You're overwhelmed." I said, "Yeah." She goes, "What are you thinking?" I said, "I'm just going to fall over the railing and land on the floor." She goes, "That'll never happen." She goes, "Never happened on my watch." And she goes, "With what you're doing right now, you're very aware of what's going on, which is amazing. You're aware of your surroundings. You're very mindful of what's happening. You're going to be fine." But these are just little tidbits that are popping back in my brain. Sorry, but there's so much has happened. Oh my gosh, so much has happened.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on and talking with me today, Jay. I know that this is going to help a lot of people. And for everybody who's listening to this, I really encourage you to think of at least one person who may even benefit from this, and consider sharing this with them, because there's so much to gain from this, and you never know what one thing might change their life. It might just change the course of everything that's about to happen for them. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, anybody in your audience, if they want to talk to me, just shoot my email or something. I mean, this is what I do. I talk to people, and I try to help them make sense of their path with their journey, so to speak, right?
Fantastic. So your email and all of the information that I can give will be in the podcast description. So if you're, for everybody listening, check down in the podcast description, and it'll all be there for you.
Excellent. And yeah, for sure, I'd love to talk to anybody. Really
Awesome.
Great.
So this podcast is brought to you by Sword Academy, where you can build the best you possible. You can find out more about that at swordacademy.ca, and we'll be right here next time with another podcast. Thanks so much, Jay.
Yeah, thanks so much. And this is great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Take care.